This is the art of simple golf, and being consistent around the greens is way easier than you think. Every single one of you can be a better chipper with these 3 very simple steps. Step number 1 is ensuring that we have a consistent radius. What that means basically is our setup position, our orientation to the ball, and where we can reliably control our low point. Our low point meaning where we strike the turf below. But what happens too often when we're setting up, we're a little bit too close to it, we're a little bit too stooped. And in essence, if I was to allow myself to kind of stretch out more and get fully comfortable, my club would be pushing through the turf. Let's imagine this for a second. Imagine all of this is water, okay? There's water all around me, and I've been given the gift of hovering, okay? So I'm able to walk on water. I'm standing on the water, and the ball is floating on top of the water, but my club is the only thing that can penetrate down through the water. I want you to envision that all around. And I want you to take your setup, and I want you to do a little check that feels, is my club pushing down into the water? Is it below the ball? If I was here, do I feel like I can very easily push the club further down into the water? So how do I make myself feel like everything is staying on top of the water? I'm going to stand a little bit further away. I'm going to stand a little bit taller. Now, for me to get lower than this ball, to push this down, I'm sort of at the end of my range of motion when I feel comfortable. It's going to feel weird to push it much further. What that does, that sets me up for a consistent radius. From here, I can pull the trigger, and it's much easier for me to just brush the turf and make that ball contact. The way most of your wedges are designed, they have a leading edge here, and that leading edge is used to cut through the turf, but they also have bounce. And these Avoda wedges have very unique grinds and bounces, which make pretty much eliminating fat shots a reality, which makes it much easier. But we still have to apply the same principles no matter what wedge you're using. You see, a lot of chunk shots or missed strikes when it comes to little chip shots out of rough or fairway happen because we are leaning the shaft too much. When we do that, basically we remove the bounce, and this leading edge really digs into the turf. The more forward we get the strike, the less margin for error that we have, basically. So what do we want to do? We want to try and expose the leading edge to be a little bit off the ground. And quite clearly you can see when we move the shaft back, we are exposing this leading edge to get some air. What that's going to do is basically make it, I'm exaggerating, but it's going to make it impossible for that ball to dig in and chunk down. It's literally just going to bounce off. But we can't chip like this. All we need to do is focus on trying to get our setup a lot more vertical. And this is how you set up for it. So all we need to do is get balanced, get about 60 to 70% of weight on your front side here. It's not just your feet, it's like the balance. You see how I'm tilting my hips forward a little bit? I'm balanced and poised, but my only objective when I'm setting up is to get the ball within the middle of my feet, and I'm ensuring that the shaft of the club is vertical. And as I make my action, I'm actually trying to basically return it back to straight, back to center. I'm not letting it flip past. I'm not doing that. I'm just maintaining this position backwards and forwards. I'm not rigid with my wrists. I'm allowing a little bit of movement. I'm not intentionally forcing them, but I'm allowing the weight of the club just to move backwards and forwards. But I'm trying to present the club back at vertical. And by doing that, it's going to help me basically control that low point. It makes it very, very hard to hit shots fat or hit shots thin. So I really urge you, at home, you don't even need to go out on the golf course, off your carpet, just keep rehearsing this setup and try and get better at making nice little contact chip shots with that setup, working on the radius. Now, to really improve the strike, to get pro level quality strikes around the green, this is what you need to do. Here's a little bonus tip. At setup, not only do I want you to have the shaft vertical, I want you to just open up the club face just a little bit. What that's going to do is help the technique, which we'll get into in a minute, on the backswing, but it will also raise the leading edge to be off the ground just a little bit. I'm not laying it wide open. It's literally just maybe like a couple of degrees open here. Then I re-grip to have the club square. So it's a little bit open, and then I make my action. Too many of my students or people I play with, when it comes to chip shots, for some reason, they think they need to sort of cut across everything that way to try and get spin or whatever it might be. All that's doing is increasing the likelihood that you're going to get too steep on it, that you're basically just trying to do too much with it. We need simplicity. We need it to be very executable. What we're going to do is actually feel like, instead of cutting across it, we're actually going to feel like we're going in to out just a little bit. And that might be unusual at first. Instead of chopping across this way, we're just going to feel like we're taking the club up, but we're dropping it almost on the inside and trying to move it out to the right. It's going to feel weird to begin with for a lot of you, okay? But by doing that, having that in to out path, you're going to be able to accelerate a little bit more. You're going to be able to brush through a little bit more and get the results that you want. If you want to try and ensure that you hit more greens in the first place and don't need to chip as much, this lesson is going to help you a ton. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.